The world tilted sideways. The police found my ute on the gravel shoulder of State Highway 2 with the hazard lights still blinking, the radio still playing. The world tilted sideways. The ambos said I had been slumped across the steering wheel for nearly 20 minutes before a truck driver heading south spotted me and pulled over. My wife was at her sister's place in Tauranga. The world tilted sideways. She told the paramedic who called that she was in the middle of dinner and could not leave that evening. My son said he was camping at the Coromandel and had no coverage. The world tilted sideways. My daughter told the hospital coordinator not to ring again because they were trying to enjoy their long weekend. 5 days later, they turned up at the ward asking for my wallet. The world tilted sideways. There was nothing there except a single envelope tucked under the pillow, held in place with a piece of tape. When my daughter-in-law read what was inside, she had to sit down on the floor of the corridor. The world put his fist through the plasterboard wall beside the fire extinguisher and split 2 knuckles to the bone. My name is Colin Fenwick. I am 64 years old. The world tilted sideways. 8 years building Fenwick Earthworks, the largest civil contracting business in the Waikato. I started it with a second-hand digger, a trailer, and a phone number printed on magnetic signs I stuck to the door of a borrowed ute. By the time I turned 55, I had 42 staff. The world tilted sideways. Waikato, Kotoi, and every major developer from Hamilton to Huntley, and more money than a boy from top ever expected to see in his lifetime. The world tilted sideways. That I also had a family that had come to treat me the way people treat a council skip. You fill it with whatever you no longer want to deal with, and you expect someone else to empty it for you. The world tilted sideways and tell you what I did and why I would do it again without hesitation. Leave a comment below telling me where you are watching from. The world ever given everything to people who took it without a second thought. Tap like and subscribe. You will want to stay for this one. It was a Tuesday in late May, one of those gray Waikato mornings where the fog sits on the paddocks and refuses to lift. I had been out since 6, checking on a culvert job near Nguruawaya. The world tilted sideways. The crew was installing a new drainage system under a section of rural road that had been washing out every winter for a decade, and I wanted to walk the site myself before the concrete pour. The world tilted south. I've always been that way. You cannot grow a business on trust alone. You grow it on showing up when no one expects you to and catching the thing that would have gone wrong if you had not. I was driving back toward Hamilton on State Highway 2 when I felt something strange in my jaw, not pain. More like pressure, a slow tightening. The world tilted spanner feels when you are just beginning to torque a bolt. I rolled my shoulders. I thought I had slept awkwardly. The pressure moved into my chest and spread across my sternum like a belt being drawn tight from behind. My left arm went cold. Then it went numb. My fingers would not grip the wheel properly, though I knew what it was. My father had a heart attack at 62. His brother went at 58. The Fenwick men had always had strong opinions and weak hearts. They managed to ease the ute onto the gravel before I lost the strength to steer. I got one hand on my phone and pressed the emergency call before everything went sideways. The dispatcher's voice, steady and calm, asking me to stay on the line. The phone slipped. The last thing I remember is the indicator still clicking and the fog outside the windscreen. The world tilt is very still, very white. I woke up in Waikato Hospital looking at a fluorescent ceiling. Someone was cutting my jacket open with scissors. I remember thinking that was my good swandry. The wormmate Ray gave me for my 60th birthday, and I wanted to say something about it, but nothing came out. The cardiologist, a calm, precise woman named Dr. Nagata, told me that my left anterior descending artery was 93% blocked. She said they needed to perform an emergency angioplasty and that the next few hours were critical. She asked whether my family had been contacted. The world tilted sideways. A big, steady man named Hemi, who had the kind of face that had seen too much and still chose kindness, picked up my phone from the bag of personal effects. He found my wife Elaine. And I had been married for 36 years. We met at a young farmer's dance in Cambridge in 1988, when she had muddy boots and a laugh that could carry across a paddock. Somewhere along the road the laughter stopped and the expectations started. The world, being Mrs. Fenwick, came with a lifestyle she had not imagined when we were eating meat pies in the cab of a second-hand Hilux. The world, since she had spent the better part of the last decade treating that lifestyle as a personal entitlement. Hemi put the phone on speaker. It rang 4 times. The world answered with the tone of someone who had been interrupted during something important. "Colin," she said, "there is a hospital number coming up. What have you done now?" It was not a question. It was an accusation. The world tilted to Fenwick. Hemi said, "This is Hemi Parada, charge nurse at Waikato Hospital Cardiac Unit. Your husband has suffered a serious heart attack. He is being prepared for emergency surgery. The world to hear as soon as possible." There was a pause. I could hear voices in the background, the sound of cutlery on plates. "How serious?" Elaine said. "Because Colin has a tendency to catastrophes. Last year he thought he had appendicitis and it turned out to be too many pies. Jarkagata leaned toward the phone. Mrs. Fenwick, your husband's artery is almost completely blocked. The world intervention in the next hour. He may not survive the night. We need family present for consent and decision-making. I heard Elaine exhale slowly. Not a sharp intake of breath. Not a tremor. Slow, controlled exhale, the sound of mild inconvenience. The world tilt in Tauranga, she said. I am at Robin's place for the week. It is a 2.5-hour drive back and I have had 2 glasses of wine with dinner, so I cannot drive anyway. The word, can you not just proceed with whatever you need to do? He has private health cover. It should all be covered. Ring me when he is out of surgery. She hung up. The world tilted sideways. The nurse in the corner of the room turned away and looked at the wall. Hemi pressed his lips together until they went pale. Jarkagata looked at the phone with an expression I could not fully read. The were between professional composure and disbelief. I felt the tears before I decided to cry. They ran sideways into the pillow. Not from the pain, though the pain was substantial. The world tilted sideways, that the woman I had shared a bed with for 36 years could not be moved to put down her wine glass for me. The world tried my son next. Noel was 33. He had a marketing degree from Waikato University, a degree I had paid $90,000 for. The world she used to consult for a vaping company on a freelance basis, when he felt like it. For the most part he spent his time at the boat ramp, playing golf at Raglan, the borrowing money from me for investment opportunities that never materialized. He lived in a townhouse in Hamilton East that I had put the deposit on. The phone rang 3 times. The world didn't hear wind and the sounds of a campfire. Yeah, Noel said, like he was answering a telemarketer. Hemi explained the situation. Emergency surgery, life-threatening, please come now. The words. Noel was quiet for a moment. Then he said, look, the Coromandel is pretty remote, the road back is not great at night, and Steph and I have just set up camp. The world tilted. Stad actually in danger, or is this a precaution thing? Because you know what he is like. Your father could die tonight, Hemi said, his voice very level. The word. The heard Noel take a breath. He is pretty tough though, he said. And I could hear him rummaging for something, a torch, probably something in a bag. Look, I will head back first thing in the morning. The world tilted sideways. Tell him I will be there by 10, and tell him I need to chat to him about the boat financing when he is feeling better. It is time sensitive. The line went quiet. Hemi looked at me. The world tilted was one more name on my phone. I nodded toward it without speaking. He could see who it was. My late business partner Ray's son. The Warriors and I had started Fenwick Earthworks together in 1986 with almost nothing except stubbornness and the ability to work 16-hour days. Ray died of bowel cancer 6 years ago. The word. I promised him I would keep an eye on his boy. And I had. Tommy was now 28, working as a leading hand on my Hamilton Depot crew. He showed up early every morning, the world tilted machine on the yard, and had never once asked me for anything he had not earned twice over. He rang me sometimes just to talk, not to ask for anything, just to talk. Hemi dialed. The world. Tommy picked up on the first ring. Colin, the voice said. That is a hospital number. What is going on? Hemi explained. I heard a chair scrape, keys in a hand, a door. I am coming, Tommy said. The world till's voice was tight and quiet, the way young men sound when they are trying not to fall apart. Tell him I am on my way, please. Tell him I am coming right now. The world tilt in 34 minutes. He was still in his work gear, heave his vest, steel caps, a stripe of grease across his forearm from whatever he had been working on. The world. He came through the door and crossed the room in 3 strides and took my hand in both of his. His grip was solid and warm. I am here, he said. I am not going anywhere. He was 28 years old. Though he was not my son, but he was the only person who showed up. The world tilted. Gata. Give me the forms, I said. My voice came out like gravel rolling down a drainpipe, but the words were clear. I signed the consent myself. The world tilted sideways, stood with his hand on my shoulder as they wheeled me toward theater. The lights overhead blurred and shifted. The world. Tommy say something to the nurse about being updated every 30 minutes no matter what. As the anesthetic pulled me under, the last thought I had was not about dying. The world tilted sideways. All the years and all the money and all the early mornings. The world tilted sideways. In the world who had driven across Hamilton in 34 minutes because someone who mattered to him needed him too. I woke up on the 3rd day. The world. The same evening. Not the next morning, the 3rd day. Jarkagata told me the procedure had been complicated. They had needed to place 3 stents. The world tilted sideways. She said my survival was partly good medicine and partly what she called an impressive refusal to cooperate with the process of dying. I told her the Fenwick men had always been difficult. The world tills in the chair beside my bed. He had not left the ward. The nurses told me later he had slept in that chair for 2 nights, eaten vending machine sandwiches and gas station sausage rolls, then rebuffed every suggestion that he go home and rest. He had left twice briefly. The world tilted sideways, and once to bring me a proper flat white from the cafe on the corner, because he said the hospital coffee was not something he was willing to subject me to. Nobody else had called.
Not Noel, nobody.
The world. The second morning of my consciousness, I asked Tommy to bring my laptop from the ute. He did not ask why, he simply went and got it. The word he came back, he also brought a bag of Chimera chips because he had noticed I had not eaten properly since I woke up. I opened the laptop. There was a notification from our home security system. The whirlwind detected at the main residence, previous evening. I accessed the camera feed. I rewound to the night before. There was my lounge. The world tilted sideways, the stone fireplace I had built myself over 2 weekends in 2004. The Kari coffee table I had bought at an estate sale in Cambridge because it reminded me of my grandmother's kitchen. The world tilted side, the 2 leather armchairs Elaine had said were too dark for the room but never got around to replacing because I refused to throw out something that was still perfectly good. The world tomb was home, not just home. She was hosting. It was not a small dinner. There were at least 8 people around my dining table. The one I had bought when Noel finished school because Elaine said the old one was embarrassing. I recognized most of them, her friends from the tennis club, her sister Robin and Robin's husband. The head of the table, in my chair, was Noel. He was wearing my good swandry, the one Hemi's scissors had cut from my body in the cardiac unit 2 days earlier. He did not know that, of course. The world tilted sideways. He must have found the spare from the wardrobe. He looked like a boy playing at being his father. I turned up the volume. The world was standing at the sideboard, opening a bottle of wine. Not the bottle from the rack. I could see the label from the camera even on the small screen. It was my bottle of Church Road Grand Reserve 2015. I had been keeping it since the vintage. I had told Elaine at least a dozen times it was for the day I handed the business over. The day I retired. The world tilted sideways, celebration of 38 years of building something from nothing. She was pouring it into the good glasses like it was a Tuesday night bottle of Marlborough Sauvignon, which I suppose it now was. The world tilted sideways, a peaceful week without the muck and the machinery, Elaine said, raising her glass and smiling, the smile she used when she wanted to seem relaxed. Colin is being taken care of at the hospital. Though we finally have the house to ourselves, no steel caps by the door, no 6 in the morning alarms, no arguments about the thermostat, just quiet. The world tilted sideways, the table laughed. Robin raised her glass. Honestly, Elaine, you deserve a break. He works far too much. He does not know how to slow down. Noel leaned back in my chair and turned the glass in his hand. The world, the nicest part is, he said, Dad cannot see the bank statements from his hospital bed. He swirled the wine. The world, who'd had my eye on a boat upgrade for 2 years, and I think this weekend might be the right time to sort the finance. Nothing outrageous. 50,000, maybe 60. He will barely notice. The table laughed again. His partner Stephanie squeezed his arm. Elaine smiled, the long, slow smile of a woman who had set down a very heavy thing she had been carrying for a very long time. Lowering her voice just slightly, she said, let us be honest. The world tilted, if not go perfectly. If there were complications, it would not be the end of the world. She paused. The life insurance alone is $2.4 million. And the business. And the property. The world tilted sideways. She gestured at the room. We would be comfortable for the rest of our lives. Noel nodded. I would finally be able to run things properly. No more being second-guessed on every decision, every invoice. The world tilted sideways, Stephanie said, lifting her glass. To the future, the table said. I closed the laptop. My hands were not shaking. My chest was sore, but my mind was perfectly still. The way it gets in the second before you put a machine into gear. Every moving part aligned, the decision already made. Tommy was watching me. He had seen my face change. Colin, he said quietly.
Is it?
The world tilted sideways. I looked at this young man who had slept in a hospital chair for 2 nights because his father's old business partner mattered to him. I looked at him and I knew exactly what I was going to do. The world tills need my phone, I said. And then I need you to find the number for Warren Gill. Warren Gill was my solicitor, not the kind who handles conveyancing and wills. The kind that large construction companies hired when they needed to dismantle another large construction company, clause by clause, down to the concrete pins in the foundations. The word, a voice like a contract clause and a mind like a surveyor's level, perfectly flat and utterly unforgiving. I had kept him on retainer for 12 years. The word never have reason to use him the way I was about to. I rang him at 7:15 in the morning. He answered without preamble, because Warren Gill did not do preamble. The were him everything. The phone calls from the hospital, the camera footage, the wine, the toast, the $2.4 million. When I finished, there was a silence of perhaps 4 seconds. Colin, the world describing a full financial separation. Trust restructuring, account transfers, asset relocation. If we proceed, Elaine and Noel will wake up with nothing liquid, no property access. The world tilted it, no cash. I know, I said. You are not medicated beyond what is necessary. You are thinking clearly. I have never thought more clearly in my life, Warren. The war wife discussed the possibility of my death as a financial opportunity over a glass of wine I was saving for my retirement. The Whirlson used my hospitalization as cover to plan a $60,000 boat upgrade. I am done. Warren was quiet for one more beat. I will be there by 9, he said. I am bringing the full structure. The world tilted sideways. The fulture was a set of documents we had prepared 3 years earlier, after I discovered that Noel had been making unauthorized cash advances against the company credit account. The world tilted at first, then larger ones. Golf club memberships, accommodation, a jet ski he told me he had paid for himself. When I confronted him, he had wept and promised, and I had forgiven him. The world tilted sideways as fathers do. But I had also walked into Warren's office the following week and said I wanted a contingency plan, just in case. Warren called it the clean slate arrangement. The world been sitting in his files ever since, waiting for a day I had hoped would never come. That day had arrived. The Warren came in with 2 paralegals and a notary and set up at my bedside with the quiet efficiency of a crew laying curbing on a good day. The work was methodical. The establishment of the Fenwick Family Trust, an irrevocable trust with me as sole beneficiary and Tommy Oasa as successor trustee. The worry asset I held personally would be transferred into this trust. The property on Peach Grove Road, the World Till Life's block in Cambridge I had bought with the proceeds of a good year in 2014. The commercial yard in Frankton, the 3 residential rentals in Claudelands, the worth of business itself. Every machine, every contract, every resource consent, all of it. Second, the transfer of all jointly held accounts. Elaine was a secondary holder on my personal accounts at ANZ. The Warren initiated the wire transfers that would move every dollar into the trust's account at a separate institution. He left exactly $1 in each joint account. The world, the cancellation of all credit facilities. Elaine held 2 cards under my name. Noel held 3, including a business card he used without restraint for personal expenditure. WAR 5 were reported compromised and cancelled with immediate effect. Fourth, the termination of Noel's role at Fenwick Earthworks. He held the title of Business Development Manager. The world tilted Sishan I had created at his request so he would have something credible on his email signature. His actual contribution to the business was somewhere between minimal and negative. The world tilt salary was $95,000 a year. That salary ended at close of business today. I signed every document. My signature was steady. Tommy witnessed each one without comment. The world tilted sideways. Understanding that sometimes the most important thing you can do for someone you respect is stand beside them while they do the hard thing. By 11:30 it was done. The world tilted sideways. Get out of here, I told Warren. I do not want to be in this bed when they realize the accounts are empty and decide to come in person. Warren had planned for this. The already arranged a transfer to a private cardiac rehabilitation facility in the Hawke's Bay. Discreet, excellent medical staff, no public listing. He had a vehicle waiting at the service entrance. The world tilted sideways. I left an envelope on the pillow. 3 lines. I wrote them carefully, 1 word at a time, making sure each one carried the full weight of what I meant it to carry. The world tilted to Napier himself. We did not talk much. He adjusted the heat twice without being asked, stopped once at top so I could stretch and take my medication. The wart me a decent pie from the 4 Square because he said I needed to eat something that was not hospital food. At some point past the volcanic plateau, he turned on the radio and an old Split Ends song came on, the one about history never repeating. Ray had loved Split Ends. We had been to their reunion concert together in 2006. The world, Tommy did not know that, but he smiled anyway. When we arrived at the rehabilitation center, set in the hills above Napier with air that smelled of dry grass and the sea, the world tilted sideways. Sat on the veranda and looked at the bay turning copper in the late afternoon light. You all right, mate? Tommy said quietly, setting my bag down. Better than I have been in years, I said. That I meant it. It took them 5 days. The world tilted sideways, not because they were worried about my health, because Elaine's credit card was declined at Farmers in Tauranga and she assumed it was a bank error. Himmy, the charge nurse. The world tilted sideways. Something of an ally rang Tommy that evening and gave a full account of the scene that followed. I believe he delivered it with considerable personal satisfaction. Elaine arrived at the ward in her good coat, expecting to see me in bed, sign whatever needed signing, and leave within the hour. Noel was with her. Stephanie waited in the car on her phone. The world tilted sawed the nurse's station and Elaine tapped the counter the way she always did when she wanted to establish that she was not someone to be kept waiting. I need to see my husband, she said. Colin Fenwick, Ward 12. It is a family matter. Hemi looked up from his desk. Mrs. Fenwick, he said. Your husband was discharged 4 days ago. Elaine blinked. Discharge? He just had stents put in. Where has he gone? If he transferred to a private facility, the location was not disclosed. That is absurd, Elaine said. He cannot just disappear. He has obligation. The world tilt counts that need sorting and the rates payment is overdue and I need access to the ANZ portal. Hemi reached under the counter and placed a white envelope on the desk between them. The world tilt if this for you. Elaine tore it open. Inside were two documents. The first was a copy of the trust establishment deed, a summary of which Warren had prepared in plain language at my request. The property transferred. Accounts consolidated. Business restructured. All credit facilities canceled. Contact Warren Gill and Associates for further inquiries. The second was my note. The Lane read it aloud in a voice that had started out sharp and became something else entirely. The word at the house to yourselves, you had it. I heard every word you said on Thursday evening. The Church Road 2015 was not yours to open. Neither was my chair. Neither was my life. Do not ring me. The world tilted sideways. The only number you need now is Warren Gill's. He will explain the rest. Elaine's face went from impatient to pale to gray. She looked at Noel. The Noel had his phone out and was already in his banking app. The world tilted sideways, refreshing the screen over and over with a look I imagine was similar to the look a man gets when he reaches into his pocket for his wallet and finds it gone. Mum, he said. The world tilted. His voice had gone very thin. Mum, the accounts. There is $1. That is all. $1 in every account. Elaine called the credit card company. She was on hold for 7 minutes. The world tilted sideways. She was told all cards associated with Colin Fenwick had been cancelled and she was no longer an authorized user on any account in the portfolio. The mortgage company for the Peach Grove Road property. The property had been transferred to the Fenwick Family Trust as of 5 days prior. She was not listed as a trustee or a beneficiary. The world tilted saw authorized occupant. She rang Fenwick Earthworks. The office manager, a woman named Carol who had worked for me since 2008, told her that Noel's employment had been terminated and that all company authority had been transferred to the interim operations manager. The interim operations manager was Tommy Iosa. That detail, the world tilted told, landed on Noel like a physical impact. He actually stepped backward. Tommy, he said. Tommy is a machine operator. He drives a bloody excavator. I am the business development manager. The world tilted sideways. You had a degree and a salary, Carol said. Both have been terminated. Tommy has an appointment with the lawyers on Thursday. I am sorry, Noel. She did not sound particularly sorry. The world tilted sideways. Elaine stood in the hospital corridor with the kind of expression a person gets when the ground has shifted beneath them, and they have not yet accepted that they are falling. She had built 36 years of identity around being Mrs. Fenwick, the tennis club, the good coat, the holidays in Queenstown, the dinners with the right people. The world it purchased with money she had not earned and had never once considered might not always be there. I imagine the drive back to Hamilton, the silence. Noel in the passenger seat, the world tilting his phone screen. The $1 balance refusing to change. Stephanie in the back asking what was happening and receiving no answer. Elaine with both hands on the wheel, knuckles white. The world tilted sows on the road. When they pulled into the driveway, Warren's people were waiting. 2 of them, polite and immovable, standing by the front steps with a clipboard and a locksmith. The word afternoon, the first one said. I am here on behalf of the Fenwick Family Trust. The property at Peach Grove Road has been transferred as of the 12th of May. You are no longer authorized to reside here. You have 1 hour to collect personal items, clothing, toiletries, medications, personal documents, all furniture, appliances, artwork. The world tilted contents are property of the trust and must remain. Noel stepped forward. His face was red and his hands were clenched. You cannot do this. I grew up in this house. This is our home. The man with the clipboard did not move. Sir, he said. You are 33 years old. You have never paid rent, mortgage, or rates on this property. You have no legal standing. The world tilted solicitor holds the court order. Would you like to see it? The Lane ran upstairs. She was going for the jewelry box. The worksmith's assistant stopped her gently at the bedroom door and explained that the contents of the box had been inventoried as trust property. The gold bangle I gave her for our 25th anniversary. The pearl set she wore to Noel's 21st. The world tilted sideways, the diamond ring she had chosen herself from a jeweler in Auckland, and that I had never once said was too expensive. She had to hand them over, all of them. The world tried to take the television from the lounge. He was told no. He tried to load the outdoor furniture into his car. He was told no. He looked at the key for the second car. The world tilted sideways, though I had bought Elaine 3 years ago. The vehicle was registered to the trust. Stephanie had remained in the car throughout. By the time the hour was up, she was no longer in the car. The world tilted sideways. She had called a friend, I was told later, and been collected from the end of the driveway while Noel was arguing with Warren's man about a fishing rod. But they stood in the driveway with 2 bags and a cardboard box. The locksmith changed the deadbolts in the gate code. The security cameras were re-angled. My property. My house. My decision. The world too drove to a motel on Ulster Street. Noel's personal account had less than $400. They paid for 2 nights. After that they had nothing. In Napier, I was walking the grounds of the rehabilitation center in the early morning, chest sore but legs steady, breathing the salt air off Hawke's Bay. My doctors were surprised at how quickly I was recovering. I told them I had excellent motivation. They assumed I meant my health. I meant clarity. Over the following weeks while I rebuilt my body, Warren sent me weekly reports. I read them the way I used to read site inspection summaries, calmly, with attention to detail, and with a cup of good tea. The Whirl and Stephanie separated inside the first fortnight. Stephanie had a practical streak that Noel had always mistaken for affection. When the accounts went dark, so did her interest. She moved back to her parents' place in Taupo. Noel rang her many times. She stopped answering after the first week. Elaine engaged a family lawyer in Hamilton to contest the trust. The lawyer reviewed the documents and rang her back 3 days later. He told her the trust was watertight, that every transfer was legally correct. The prenuptial agreement she had signed in 1988, which she had not read at the time because she trusted me and the solicitor had been young and very fast. The Whirl till provisions that made a challenge extremely difficult. He declined to take the case on contingency. He recommended she find employment. And then came the forensic accounting. The Warren had engaged a forensic accountant as part of the standard audit when we restructured the business. What the accountant found, the Whirl till 6 weeks of looking at every transaction from the previous 3 years, was not what I had expected. Noel had not just been casual with the company credit account. He had been systematic. The Whirl tilted supplier invoices, payments to a trust account in his girlfriend Stephanie's name for services that did not exist, cash withdrawals against the business overdraft for personal use, the Whirl till trips to Queenstown, accommodation in Wanaka, a $22,000 motorbike he had told me he financed himself. The total came to $280,000. Warren filed a report with the Serious Fraud Office. The worthy investigators came to speak with Noel. They found him living in a flatmate situation in Claudelands, in one of my own rental properties. The Whirl tilted site was managed by an external agent who had not yet been informed of the ownership change. He was behind on his portion of the rent. He told the investigators the payments had been authorized. The Whirl tilted sideways at me. He told them it was all a misunderstanding. Warren had every bank record, every forged approval, every fraudulent invoice. The Whirl Tilper trail was clean because I had built the business on documentation. Every cent was tracked, every approval was dated, every discrepancy was logged. Noel had not understood that. He had thought the company was too busy to notice. The Whirl tilted charged. The hearing was held in Hamilton. Tommy attended as my representative. The Whirl tilted sideways told me afterward that Noel had arrived in a creased jacket with a duty solicitor who was running 15 minutes late. The Whirl tilted sideways, and that he had looked small and uncertain in a way that had nothing to do with the charges against him, and everything to do with what he had never been asked to develop when I was always there to catch him. The Whirl till was set at $80,000. He could not post it. Elaine rang Warren's office 17 times across that week. The messages ranged from appeals to threats to something that Tommy described. The Whirl phone, he listened to them at my request, as a long and not entirely coherent argument that the whole situation was fundamentally unfair. Warren forwarded them without comment. I listened to each one. The Whirl till not feel guilty. I felt the way I used to feel when I found a structural fault in a job before it became someone's problem. Difficult to address, but necessary. The Whirl tilted sideways. I was fully recovered. I was walking 8 kilometers a day along the Hawke's Bay Trail, eating properly for the first time in years. The word out, waking at 3 in the morning thinking about payroll and compliance. Spite, I will admit, is a remarkable cardiovascular motivator. I sold the Peach Grove Roadhouse. The Whirl tilted sideways sold the Cambridge Lifestyle Block. I sold the Claudelands rentals. I kept the business. I restructured it properly, brought in a professional general manager to handle the operational side. The Whirl tilted sideways stepped in an advisory role that let me focus on what I had always been good at, the work itself, the technical decisions, the site visits. The Whirl, the relationships with the people who actually built things with their hands. The Whirl was promoted to operations manager. He earned it every day he had ever shown up. The Whirl tilted performed better in his first 2 quarters than it had in Noel's entire tenure as business development manager, because Tommy understood something that Noel had missed entirely. The Whirl through an authority by demonstrating it, not by printing it on a business card. With a portion of the proceeds, I established the Ray Iasa Memorial Scholarship at Hamilton Boys High School for young men from trades families who wanted to get into civil construction. Ray would have wanted that. He always said the industry needed people who understood what they were building. The Whirl tilted sideways. I bought a small back in Pepe Mo on the beachfront. Nothing grand, a weatherboard place with a deck that looks out over the Pacific. The Whirl tilted saw is close enough to the water that you can hear the waves from the bedroom. I have a workshop attached where I restore old engines. The moment I am working on a 1968 Triumph Bonneville that came to me from an estate sale in Rotorua. The chrome is pitted. The carburetor needs rebuilding. The wiring is a disaster. It is exactly the kind of problem I enjoy. The Whirl tilted towards every few weeks. He brings his partner Aroha, who is a physio and who laughs at everything and who has started asking me to teach her how to read a civil drawing, the world tilters, which I find deeply pleasing. We eat fish and chips on the deck and watch the waves come in, and we talk about machines and the business and occasionally about Ray, the world tilted sideways. Who I miss the way you miss a part of yourself that has been gone long enough that you have learned to function without it, but not long enough that you have stopped noticing. The world tilted sideways. Last month Tommy told me that Aroha was expecting. He asked me on the deck in the morning sun with the ocean behind him and the smell of salt and coffee in the air whether I would be the godfather. I said yes before he finished the sentence. The world accepted a plea arrangement. 18 months in a minimum security facility. He will be out in under a year if he keeps his head down. I do not wish him harm. The word thin no longer wish him anything in particular. He is someone I used to know. Someone I tried to build into a person who could stand on his own feet, and who never quite got there because I was always underneath him holding the ladder. Elaine is working part-time at a garden center in Kirikiriwa. The world tilted sideways. I heard through Warren that she stands at the counter and sells pot plants and fertilizer to women who live in the kinds of houses she used to consider beneath her. The world to tennis club membership lapsed when the direct debit failed. Her sister Robin, I am told, remained in contact for several weeks, until the invitation stopped. The world tilted sideways. She wrote me a letter. It arrived at Warren's office 2 months ago. She said she was sorry. She said she had not meant what she said at the dinner. She said she missed the life we had built. The world tilted flattened that the rent for her flat in Taror was more than she could easily manage on a part-time wage. I read the letter on the deck in the early morning. The sea was flat and silver. The world tilted sideways, smelled of low tide and sunscreen and someone's morning toast from along the beach. I folded the letter carefully. I walked inside and placed it on the top of the coal burner. The world watched the paper curl at the edges, the ink fade, the whole thing contract and turn to nothing. I made a coffee and walked back out to the deck. I picked up my phone, not to ring Elaine. Sideways. The world tilted sideways. Tommy. I told him the Triumph's carburetor was fighting me and I could use a second set of eyes on the weekend. He said he and Aroa would be there Saturday morning. The world tilted sideways. He said Aroa wanted to try the fish and chip shop on the front. I sat in the salt air with my coffee and the sound of the waves, and I thought about the 38 years I had spent building things. The world tilted sideways, and I had learned in the year that followed almost dying. The people who love you do not raise a glass to your life insurance while you are in surgery. The world tilted sideways. The people who love you drive across the city in their work gear and sit in a vinyl chair for 2 nights eating vending machine food because they cannot imagine being anywhere else. The world tilted sideways. Wealth that does not appear in any account statement. It cannot be transferred into a trust or restructured by a solicitor. The world tilted sideways. It is the wealth of being known by someone who has no reason to pretend. It is the wealth of a hand on your shoulder when the machines are beeping and the night is very long. The world to business from a second-hand digger and a borrowed phone number. I built it from the ground up, the only way anything worth having ever gets built. The Whirly lost the most important thing I owned, not to a blocked artery or a failed surgery, but to the slow erosion of allowing people around me to take without noticing. The world tilted sideways, to receive without gratitude, to be present in my life for what they could extract from it rather than for what they could contribute. I will not make that mistake again. The world tilts. One thing I would say to anyone watching this: it is not about revenge, and it is not about cutting people off. It is simpler than that. Pay attention to who shows up. The world tilted sideways. Not to the people who call you when they need the account details or want the signature on a form. Pay attention to the people who show up when there is nothing in it for them. The world tilted sideways. The people worth building your life around. Every other relationship is just accounting. My name is Colin Fenwick. I am 64 years old. The world tilted survived a heart attack in a family that had confused my generosity with obligation, my patience with permission, and my love with an endless line of credit. The world too, a batch on the beach and a Triumph in the workshop and a godchild on the way and a flat white going cold on the railing. And if that phone ever rings with Elaine's name on the screen, the world tilted sideways. I will walk back to the workshop, pick up a spanner, and get back to fixing something worth my time. The world tilted sideways. If this story moved you, leave a comment below. Tell me what you would have done. Would you have walked away sooner, or would you have held on longer? I will read every single one. Until next time, the world tilted care of the people who take care of you. In the end, that is the only balance sheet that matters.